Hey, everybody. It's a big historic day today, and thank you all for coming. We're going to try to break down what's going to happen next after the election. Will we get a decision tonight? I don't know. We're going to look at some odds because that's what you people want. But also, what happens after the election is most important. And we'll dig into that too, and tons of new news, including more treasuries, more pensions, some crypto stuff, a little bit of macro stuff, not much, and very little bad and ugly news, which is very bizarre. So let's jump into it. Thank you as well, Sir Winston, for coming, and Alex Rogan, relative of Joe Rogan, I hope. Let's get into it. Here we go. And disclaimer, not financial advice, just a guy on the internet. So let's go and make this happen, and I hope this is all working okay. So, and shout out to Patreon too. This is from Bishop3092. You changed my life financially. Patreon is the best money I've ever spent. Oh, that's so good. You made my day. Thank you. And thank you to the team behind me that make this possible every day. This is not a one-man show, of course, as you all know. So ugly news, first of all, let's talk about the token unlocks for this week. Didn't do it last week. Not much was happening. But this week, the top names are Aptos, Avalanche, Cardano, Sui, Jito, Wormhole, Arbitrum, and DYDX. So be careful out there if you hold any of these things. Some of the unlocks aren't that big, and some are kind of substantial, especially you see numbers like 2% or so. Now, another tiny piece of bad news, and we get this all the time, so as legends out there, you're so familiar with it. But Mt. Gox did a little usual move of the month, as I call it now. They transferred about 32,371 Bitcoin to two unknown wallet addresses yesterday, according to Arkham. And the exchange moved 500 Bitcoin last week as it works to repay creditors. Now, this did rattle the market yesterday. This was the reason for the big, nasty dip. A lot of people felt maybe it was because of the elections. But no, it was because of Mt. Gox rattles. But you know what? Happens all the time. And those legends, as I've covered many times before, they've been waiting so long to get their crypto, they're not going to just sell it instantly when they get it. Okay, over to the bad news. Again, very little bad news and tons of good news. Let's get into it first. This is the flows between chains. This is the move over the last 30 days from Ethereum, hey Jimmy, to Solana, as $150 million was drained from the Ethereum network over to Solana, and 100 million went back. So that's a net deficit of Ethereum of 50 million bucks into the Solana black hole. And that has been continuing all year. No surprise there. Everybody's here today. Everybody's nervous. Yes, I'm nervous too. I wear my heart on my sleeve, and it's a nerve-wracking time, but we'll get through it. Let's get into the good news, though. First of all, let's look at fear and greed. We are now greed. Yesterday, greed. Last week, greed. Last month, neutral. So we're still greedy. So that's kind of bullish. And then a quick breakdown of where we are with the elections based on all the data aggregated across bookies, aggregators, prediction markets, proprietary models, etc. Shout out to Galaxy as well. But here is the data we see right now. First of all, the Trump guy is leading in betting markets with odds around 60-40 in his favor. And betting markets have historically been a very, very good indicator of election outcomes. Yes, it's money. Yes, it's whales, but they are betting real money. And they put their money where their mouth is, literally. And 10 out of the last 11 elections, the betting markets actually got it right. Thank you, Viciously. Real Clear Politics is also officially predicting a Trump victory based on their aggregate polls. 538, however, has a very close race with Kamala Harris at 50% and Trump at 49%. But the big story is the Amish people in rural Pennsylvania. They are turning out of numbers because they just want to be left alone. And that's the story there that I learned about this morning and yesterday. So shout out to the Amish people if they're probably not watching this channel. Anywho, other stuff, you've got the Des Moines Register rag that believed Iowa was going to go to Harris. I do not believe that. I think it's a very red state. But that's the situation, ladies and gentlemen. So when you take aggregates of aggregates, they can't all be wrong. So we'll see where this goes. But there's always the possibility that things will be modified. That's all I'll say on that now. Now, the big story today is what happens after the election, because that's what you care about. You care about Bitcoin and your assets. So let's try and get a feel for exactly what this is. And a shout out as well to Fred. Bitcoin goes up after elections. It goes up 1 month after elections every single time. It goes up 3 months after elections. And the 12 months after elections are all super bullish. And let's have another look at what that looks like in detail. 2012, again, 2012 is a bit of an anomaly there, but right after the election, within 365 days, the gainers were 2,239%. Anybody interested in 2,200% gainers? I'm sure there's a few out there, but that's not going to happen this time, of course. It's a bigger asset, diminishing returns. The bigger something gets, the more it takes to move it, and it won't be able to move at those levels, okay? So throw that dream out the window. 2016, 924% within a year, and 2020, 360%. That's kind of what these big red lines represent. The 360 being the last one. The question is, will we get 360 this time? I don't think so. That's nearly a 4x. That'd be $250,000 Bitcoin. But this time, it is a little bit different because guess what? We have ETFs, and we have pensions, and we have more hardness than ever before. So it is a little bit different. 250 is a big stretch. We'll talk about my target that is actually just parroted back in another publication as well. And we'll see where we go from there. Now let's talk about the last week over the last 7 days in Bitcoin terms. And you can see dominance is 57.83%. Dominance is super high, but it's really beginning to top out. But even last week, Ethereum beat Bitcoin by 0.39%. Solana beat it by about 5%. Avalanche beat it too. Doge had a great week, up 15.4%. These memes just will not quit. Sui had a good week too. Near, Aptos, etc. So a bit of a mixed bag. Binance down 6%. A bit strange. Let's check in on money flows. Always follow the money, ladies and gentlemen. Last week was another monster week. Digital asset investment products saw inflows of $2.2 billion last week, bringing year-to-date inflows to a record-breaking $29.2 billion into these things that were not even a formal asset class on January 10th of this year. It's amazing. It is 5th of November, and here we are, 10 months into the year. And it's crazy what a year it's been. I know a lot of people are frustrated because you went up so fast, so early, and people just wanted things to keep on going up, but it still has been an amazing year, everybody. Let's look at the breakdown, too, of exactly where the money went. You can see a big chunk of it, actually, month to date, even though the week was very positive, the month to date, because this was October, was minus 67. That must be very weird. I need to check in on that as well. Solana was positive 5.7 million for the week. Ethereum, 9.5 million. Short Bitcoin up 8.9 million. And the reason short Bitcoin went up that amount is people are, of course, very nervous for the elections. In fact, yesterday, the ETFs drained quite a bit, I think about $300 million, because people don't know what's going to happen, and markets like to know what's going to happen next. They don't like when things are unsure. And that's why we spend time looking at this, to understand what's going to happen, because it does have an impact on the election. In fact, today, Bitcoin shot up to 70,540. Massive, massive spike, 2.5 grand in hours. It's mean reverted a little bit back as well, because now every thought this morning, things were a sure thing. And then all of a sudden this afternoon, people are a little bit, things may not be as good as expected. There's glitches all over the place. People are concerned. But we'll know more tonight as to what we can do. Now, looking back into a little bit of history, Bitcoin actually did really well in Uptober. So Uptober was an Uptober, which is awesome. Shout out to DBF430 and, of course, Ecoinometrics. But Bitcoin did do well. It outperformed gold and stock indices worldwide. Interestingly, by the way, two store of value assets, Bitcoin and gold, have been outperforming other assets as we head into the US election. A lot of reason why gold has been going up was because lots of global markets are very worried about the global macro situation. and the insane debt levels. But here we are again, not bad. And guess what's, even though Bitcoin has beaten gold so far year to date, the gold bugs won't tell you that, but it has been lagging over the past few months. Gold has really done well, and Bitcoin will follow. So this is Bitcoin since halving. I love looking at this chart. The first red line, vertical red line on the left, is the halving date. And we basically chop-solidated for quite some time, but we are higher than Bitcoin at the halving date. But the question is, what happens next? Now we're over 6 months in, nearly 7 months in. And I do believe next, after the election, this will happen. Bitcoin will break out of the all-time high within a month, maybe less. Could even happen tonight if certain things happen. And then we are off to the races. Now, it's kind of interesting because if you watch this channel, you know my kind of conservative sandbag target hopefully will get close to $120,000 for Bitcoin. But Crypto Quant analyst came out, Moreo, I think is his name. He looked at the realized value metric on Bitcoin, and he believes when applied to the Bitcoin chart, this translates to a price of $120,000 as this key metric flips bullish. And that's bang in line with what I've been saying for probably a year now. 120K based on, and I look at all of the ratios across diminishing returns over time, etc., hardness, multipliers, money flow. We'll see how close we get. Again, we could go to 250 and that would be great, but I don't want to say that because that would be an incredible gain, especially considering you could buy Bitcoin for $15,500 in the bear, and for it to do nearly a 20x would be unbelievable. But who knows? Weirder things have happened. But I tend to be much more conservative in my estimates. Now, one of the wild cards that's happening right now is there is huge amounts of money in pension funds. And this just popped up as the state of Michigan pension fund disclosed holdings of both Bitcoin and Ethereum ETFs. So shout out to the ETH Maxis. They love this one. The fund holds about 7 million in Bitcoin ETFs and 11 million, if I'm not mistaken, in ETH. It is 11 million. Yeah, I read it right there. And that's big. And they've been buying the Grayscale Ethereum fund. And it shows maybe some interest in a combination. What would happen if there's a Sol ETF? That'd be fun to see. Anyhow, it's not just Michigan and all the other, we got Florida kicking tires. We got Microsoft thinking about treasuries. We have Semler committing to buy 42 billion. This is the story. These things, these pension funds, these treasuries, they are the catalyst. No offense to you retail investors out there. The amount of money that these players have is far more than retail investors. And that's a good thing for us because as retail investors, anyway, we're on the train. Our bags are packed years ago. So we're good to go. But another big news too, shout out to our friends in the UK and EDZ Gaming. This is Cartwright, which is a UK pension advisory firm. I had to dig into how these pension funds work, but they have government employees that manage the money. But then there's a whole cottage industry of advisors that tell them what to buy. So the government employees don't actually make decisions. They go out to consultants to tell them what to buy. And that's what this firm did. It's a company called Cartwright. And they basically said, which is a groundbreaking move, they advised a monster pension scheme to invest 3% of its assets in Bitcoin. And this marks the first such allocation by a UK pension fund. And Cartwright is now urging other customers of theirs to follow suit. Boom. This is going to be big. As I say, the dominoes are falling. This could be huge. Absolutely huge. Remember, this is all part of the whole game theory. Once a couple of big pension funds start doing it, and you got the big treasuries, maybe a Microsoft or an Apple following the MicroStrategy playbook. We've got lots of smaller companies that are doing that right now. That's it. Then everybody has to do it. And then you see the rocket ship emojis popping up all over the place because that's what's going to happen. It's a scarce asset. Once the demand kicks in, boom, it's off to the races. Crazily. Anyway, back to crypto. This is the top 50 cryptos over the last 30 days. And the winner is Doge. These memes just never cease. Number 2 on the list of the last 30 days is Sol, followed by Sui. By the way, I only own 2 layer 1s. I am basically 99% in Sol, and I have a tiny bit of Sui, and that's it. That's it. And I have Bitcoin too, if you consider that a layer 1. I don't. I consider it a store of value. So of those, by the way, Bitcoin is number 4 on the list. If you pulled out the meme, 1, 2, 3, it'll be Sol, Sui, and Bitcoin, which is kind of interesting. And then on the bottom right-hand side, you got Near, Tau, Kaspa, IMX, all the losers over the last 30 days, which is interesting. Anyway, let's see where we are in terms of Bitcoin season. Yes, it's still on, score of 29. And Bitcoin is smoking all the alts. Here you see over the last period, Bitcoin up 13.2%. I think it's 30 days. Sol up 16.1%. Doge 61.6%. And WBT, I don't even know what that is, 67%. I tend to be very focused on certain assets. And usual stuff all down to the right as usual. So again, very interesting pre-election run. And there's more to come after the election, which will be super interesting. Let's see narratives again, as you saw from Doge. Memes are still winning the day, but Bitcoin is number 2 now in terms of narratives, up 12.8% for the month. Ethereum up 1.3%. They are positive, woohoo, for Ethereum. And they are the key things. If you look at some of the other ones, let's see where AI is. Oracle, we'll talk about Oracles in a minute, up down 2.9%. AI down 10%. So some of the hot narratives from earlier in the year have come back down to earth. And actually, that's reflected with things like, let me check here on the right-hand side. Tau, that's an AI play, down hard. So again, when things spike up, they will always mean revert, and that has an impact on the narrative. So again, if you keep an eye on what's hot, get into it before other people do, and then get out before it's too late, that works out well too. Now, Solana continues to lead Ethereum in fees. This is from Solana Floor. Shout out to Sanjay as well. Jito Sol and Solana continue to lead Ethereum in 24-hour protocol fees for the 3rd consecutive day. And Jito Sol also topping 7-day fee generation. You now have a situation where you've got Solana chains, discrete chains like Jupiter and Radium and others that are making more fees than the layer 1 mothership itself. And that's what you want. You want a lot of value generation. And that's the whole GDP metric, which again, as I covered on Saturday, I think, has smoked all crypto combined. One chain and all of the cottage industry within it. The second time I mentioned cottage industry today. Woohoo. Now, speaking of Solana, there was monster transfer volume in the last 24 hours. It saw a massive spike in on-chain transfer volume, peaking at $224 billion in a single day. And that's over 3 times the entire market cap of Solana of $76 billion, moving in 24 hours. So a weird anomaly. I'm not sure exactly why that was, but again, big movements on a chain. And imagine moving $250 billion successfully in 24 hours and not have to worry about it. That means the chain is stable and reliable. So, contrary to what people will tell you on the internet or Twitter. Also, Solana is also the new NFT leader against all other chains combined. All of the action, once again, for things like NFTs and DEX action, transfer volume, etc., is now all on Solana. 137,000 users. 40% of all humans that play with NFTs do it on Solana, which is bonkers. Now, speaking of another Solana chain too, Pyth is an oracle, and they just got an ETN from Van Eck, and that's been listed in Europe. It's all over the place available, if I recall, Germany, France, Norway, Switzerland, Netherlands, etc. And the ticker is VPYT, and it is basically Pyth token, which is an oracle, and they have it in cold storage for security. And you can mirror and manage and view the amount of stuff to ensure that the amount in the ETN is exactly correct, etc., etc. So it's great to see this happening with little chains within the Solana ecosystem. And again, When I first started talking about Pyth, it was a teeny fraction of the value of Chainlink. And I said, well, this will one day, be worth a lot more. And it has. It's crept up ever so slightly. It hasn't bounced up too much from the actual ETN announcement, but it will over time. Or Chainlink, coincidentally, as I mentioned last week, has started deploying on the Solana blockchain too, because you know what? They need to get better, cheaper, and faster as well. And what they were running on before simply wasn't quick enough. Let's get into some of the stocks. Let's look at the stock market last week. Again, the nerves have been out there. Actually, I should check out what crypto is doing right now. Bitcoin is still 69.2, down $1,000 from the top today a few hours ago. But the stock market also is very concerned. Nobody wants to deploy hard cash until they know exactly who the next president will be. And you can see here for the week, Amazon was up because they had bonkers good results, up 4.39% for the week. Tesla down 2%, Meta down 4%, Apple down 4%, Microsoft down 4.6%, Google flat, Nvidia down 1%. So all in all, a lot of people are waiting for direction. So tomorrow, depending on the results, could be a very high volume, very volatile day. Big number go up day or number go down day, depending on exactly what happens. We shall see. Now, other stuff pertaining to our Bitcoin miners. We'll talk a bit about the miners for a second. Today, election day, Bitcoin hash hit an all-time high. The positive adjustment came after Bitcoin Network reached a record 7-day moving average hash of over 750 exahash last week. And this marks, I think, the 23rd difficulty adjustment of 2024, with 14 of these increases pushing the total difficulty up by more than 40% this year. This is hurting the miners. But you'd think after this news, the miners would be down. No, it's very rare you see all of them up today. All of the Bitcoin miners were completely green today. And some of the ones here, let's call that Mawson, top of the list, up 14%. DigiHost, 14%. DMGI, 10%. BitDeer, 9.54%. Riot, 8%. CleanSpark, 7.76%, etc. So everything was green. MicroStrategy up only 2%. Bitcoin, 2.36%. So this tend to be mirroring each other a little bit kind of close here. But that was interesting. Now, speaking of other kind of adjacent properties, Semler Scientific, again, we just have more treasuries and more treasuries stacking every single day. There has not been a day go by where there is not a treasury announcement, either net new or adding to their bag, like Metaplanets, etc. But Semler now added 47 Bitcoin to their holdings. Their total bag is 1,058 Bitcoin. Remember, MicroStrategy has 225,000, but it's a big company, and these guys started a lot later. But they added, I think, about 181 Bitcoin to its stash in Q3 alone, and they added 47 yesterday or today. I don't remember which day it was. But this is huge. Now, I do remember, I will share as well I shared already, the Semler ARB model, so you can see exactly what it's worth, how much their Bitcoin bag is worth, what the intrinsic value of the business is worth, how much cash they have, so you can see if there's an ARB. And there was an ARB. I'm going to create my plan is to create a monster ARB model for all of these treasury companies to identify when they fall under their intrinsic value. Then you buy, because when you buy, they pop. No, before you buy, and they're under intrinsic value, then they pop at some stage whenever the market figures it out. But Semler is not on a lot of people's radar, but you can see here, this is the chart. The green arrow is when they started adding Bitcoin. And I think that was May 20th approximately. Hey, Mr. Mike, long-term holder, good to see you. And then it shot right up. But then they continued to stack. And as they continued to stack, the price fell down again, all the way down. And now the market realized, these guys now have over 1,000 Bitcoin. They just bought 47 more. They added a big bag in Q3. And now the intrinsic value of the enterprise plus their Bitcoin bag is less than their market cap. And that's why it spiked, I think, about 30% today up. So Semler, watch this space, watch all of these. They're so fascinating to watch. When I first heard of them buying it on the 20th of May, of this year. They had no options, and I tend to be an options trader, so I didn't buy the spot. But you can still make 60, 70% in a couple of weeks on spot and these things too. Also, a little bit of Tesla news before we wrap. Tesla has secured another $200 million deal in New South Wales, Australia. The Australians are stacking megapacks like treasuries are stacking Bitcoin out there. And their energy storage system size each at 200 megawatts, 400 megawatt hours. And they'll hopefully be finished sometime next year. But this is on top of this. This is from Sawyer Merritt. Over the last 18 months, Tesla has sold $4.2 billion worth of megapacks to just Australia, a country that makes up only 0.3% of the global population. The rest of the world needs these things. The Australians are moving first. They're snagging all they can because it mostly shines. The sun mostly shines in Australia. They got a free radio reactor in the sky. They just need to store the energy. And that's what they're doing. So the rest of the world will catch up too. And final piece of news as well. Everybody in Germany at the Tesla factory got raises. As promised, Tesla raised wages of all employees at its Gigafactory by 4% since the beginning of November and has given permanent jobs to 500 temporary workers. And the union was not involved because Tesla treats their employees fairly, and they don't need unions to tell them what to do or manage their pensions, which is a big part of the grift for many unions around the world too. That's why they like to control and squeeze so they can make that money, big money in pensions, as we learned today. And the more pension stack Bitcoin, the better it is for us Bitcoin bag holders. All these videos, all these slides are turned into podcasts and emails and everything else for 10 cents a day. Thank you all. And this one as well, big shout out to our community member. This is Ruby and Minnie, two Chihuahuas, 17 and 15. They both passed away this year, late summer, and they were deeply loved by Patreon member Paul Poco and family. So may these two puppies rest in peace. Thanks all.